I'm glad to be here with everybody. We're going to talk on PBAs, talk a little bit on insurance for prescribed burns on private lands, and then we'll see what else comes up. So with prescribed burns, anytime I do a fire talk, I need to stay right here. See, this is what happens when you have ADD and you move around a lot and you're stuck with a microphone. If it's not attached to you, you'll start talking and you'll lose me. So anytime I do a fire talk, I always start off with this slide, right, Shan? No, she's not paying attention. But prescribed fire is a safe way to apply a natural process, ensure ecosystem health, and reduce wildfire risk. Southern Group of State Foresters spent several years developing this little elevator speech. If you're new to fire, or if you've been around forever, commit this to your memory. Somebody asks, well, you light the woods on fire? Well, I do prescribed fire, and this is what it is. So it's important to be able to get that message out in a very concise statement so people kind of understand what's going on. But we're here because we know prescribed fire is important. What does it look like on private lands? And so these are just two different little surveys we've done. And this was we're contracted in the late 20-teens to look at 5-year-old longleaf stands in Alabama. So the first year we went out there, every county picked 2 sites. So 2 new 5-year-old longleaf stands and called us out. We looked at them. Well, as you can imagine, it wasn't random. Some counties called us out because we can help them on those and look at the stands that had problems. Other counties wanted to show us their showpieces, and so we went out and looked at them, and they looked great. Well, then the next 4 or 5 years, we randomly pulled NRCS contracts off of the mainframe computer in Auburn and went out and looked at them. So if you have a big longleaf county, we had maybe 9 site visits in a big county, and so other counties may only have 1 longleaf visit. But we went out there and assessed all these stands, and this is what we saw. The numbers were the same from the first year of the showpieces to the other stands. About 60% of those longleaf stands had not seen fire at year 5. Is that a longleaf site? I'd call it a really expensive loblolly site personally, but once you get to that point, you're 5 years into a longleaf stand, you don't have fire, there's a problem there. Then looking at the southeastern fire map, looking at Florida, which is a really big longleaf state, what does it look like? And it's kind of hard to read some of those. And Shan, I've moved to reading glasses as well, and I don't have them, so I've got to go to the big screen. I might need them. So what you see on the left, Florida longleaf acreage with a 1 to 3 5-year fire return interval is on the left. You look at on the far left, all of Florida, almost 2.5 million acres of longleaf. 34% of that has a 1 to 3 year fire return interval. That second column is the private lands. Only 23% of those stands are getting fire every 1 to 3 years on longleaf. You look at every 1 to 5 years, 25% of private lands, and then 1 to 7 years, 26%. So basically the take home on that is only about 20 to 26% of those are seeing fire every 7 years. That's a problem. Why? And a lot of this comes back to contractors. How many contractors are in here? Thank you, guys. For contractors, size matters. When you get paid by the acres, or you're charging for burning by the acres, size matters. They're not the federal government. They have to make money to stay in business. So when you have a 100-acre site, you can go out there, maybe charge $30 an acre plus fire breaks. You can make a good day's work on that. But it takes the same amount of time to go burn these smaller tracts. For 12 acres here, you can't charge by the acres because $360 is not going to cover your cost for that day to even mobilize and get out there. But oftentimes those smaller acreages are harder to burn too because you have more wildland urban interface, you have other homeowners adjacent. Your fire lines have so many corners in it that you need to put people all over the place to see and make sure the fire stays in the box. So that's an issue. NRCS has an elevated rate in some states up for less than 40 acres. And even at that cost, it makes it competitive, but it's still hard to find contractors to come out and burn it. So landowners can burn themselves. They can go get certified, they can take classes, but now what? How do we gain the experience on it? So here's a summary of identified barriers from surveys all across the country. They were done for state lands, for federal lands, for private lands. What are some of the barriers? And the key barriers that come across this are liability, lack of burn days, weather issues, capacity, manpower or staffing, depending on if you're private landowners or agency, and then lack of hands-on training. So those are all barriers that are listed, no matter which survey is done, where it's done. These are the issues that folks are running into when trying to get fire on the ground. So how can we address these barriers? And let me put this out there. We know this, anybody that does this, fire is inherently dangerous. It's a phenomenal management tool. There's nothing else like it. Does a great job of doing what we need it to do, but fires can get out on us. People can get hurt on the fire, they can get hurt going to the fire. And smoke. We've heard several smoke talks this morning, but we know smoke's an important factor that we deal with fires. It can impact roadways, it can cause health issues, but it's also pretty safe. You look at the amount of permits issued, and I'd love to see what Georgia ran into this last year on the wildfires that they had, the 1,300 wildfires. How many of those were escaped prescribed burns, or they were just wildfires? But in Florida, this is 2019, 87,900 permits, 2.43 million acres burned, and a chunk of that sugar cane down south, but it's still a boatload of forested land. And only 1,677 acres, less than 1%, were escaped prescribed fires. So what is that insurance that we have, that protection we have when it comes to prescribed fire? Many states have the liability laws. They've moved to gross negligence. I applaud Georgia. I applaud Georgia on the reciprocity too. It's a phenomenal thing to be the bell cow for the South. We're hoping the other southern states come on board with it. We're more and more increasing that standard training for prescribed burners. Most of our southern states have very similar prescribed burn training, prescribed manager training, just a little bit different when it comes to laws. There's a boatload of continuing education out there. You can go at any time online and learn about different topics. And third-party insurance, general liability. That's another insurance policy, and we'll hit on that at the end. But one of these things that we've run into with private landowners, especially, they get certified. They have had all the training, and they look at you and it's like, now what do I do? I don't know what the next step is. I have the permission card, the permission slip here to go light the fire, but I don't know how to. And so this is where prescribed burn associations have really come and filled a void. It's place-based fire outreach. It's not us looking from a program standpoint nationwide saying, this is what you need to know. There's a little bit of that, but it's going to these communities and to these organizations and to the landowners and asking them, what do you need to know about? Where are your gaps in knowledge? How can we help fill that in? It offers checks and balances. It's one of the fun things when you were burning with multiple certified burn managers on site. You still have one burn boss, but you have a sounding board. You have multiple eyeballs with a lot of experience looking at different burn plans or different fires or different ways to attack units. They offer insurance risk pools and share the capacity and resources. I'm a private landowner myself, and guess what? I'm only one person. When I'm burning our stuff, I still need help. I need other eyeballs. And every one of us runs into that. And it provides for an economy of scale. So looking at those issues that that were noted on the surveys, liability. How does this address liability? Well, there's protection under it, state laws, certification, and other burn managers looking at stuff. Lack of planning, or excuse me, lack of burn days. That's a weather issue. And oftentimes that is a big issue, but it comes down to planning. If you're ready to go ahead of time and you're looking at multiple units and you have them ready to go, you can find a day more than not to burn a site. We have those outliers that are really hard that we have real tight prescriptions on, but every day is a burn day. Take advantage of what you have. Capacity and manpower. Neighbors helping neighbors. Landowners need help. Everybody needs help. We can work together that way. And sharing equipment. When you're looking at burning your 20 acres or your 40 acres or your 100 acres one time every maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it's a big investment to go out there and spend $4,000 or $5,000, $10,000 on tools and equipment to go out there and tackle a burn every couple years. So this is a way to share this stuff. And hands-on training. At the end of the day, the way we move the needle is with training, is with that hands-on training, the showing, not telling. Also, burn associations offer workshops, year-round training. So trying to fill those technical gaps in people's experience and background. So as you guys know, PBAs are the hot topic right now. And they've been growing, and the voice for them and the demand for them and the interest in them are constantly growing. But what do you need to have a successful burn association? It's got to have dedicated coordination. We've tried to do it where, hey, I'll work on the side. Me specifically in Southwest Alabama for multiple years now, have a little pet project on the side, but I have at least a full-time job. I don't have time to dedicate to that coordination. You need somebody that's able to be there all the time, helping these landowners, pulling them together. You got to have year-round activity. For the majority of the burn season, it's during a partial time of the year. Now we can push it into the summer. I love fall burning. Every time has its place, but the majority of our burning's done during a certain time of year. Well, what's the benefit of the association if it's not burn season? So you got to have year-round activity. It's a great time to provide additional hands-on training or workshops or not fill knowledge gaps. You have to have active landowner participation. This can't be an agency-driven a group. It can be advised all day. But you got to have the landowners to have the buy-in to help bring this on. Because at the end of the day, we help out, but everybody goes home. We have our own things to deal with. We help landowners burn, but they're the ones that live on site. So they got to have buy-in on it. The redundancy and oversight from parties, that's just multiple eyes looking at it to making sure that all the actions are safe and everybody is learning in a safe manner. And the other part is set them up as their own 501c3, their own nonprofit. This allows them to get after other donations, memberships, take money in year-end donations, and go after other grants to help bolster that organization on its own. And the goal at the end of the day is to build these groups, build self-sufficiency in these groups, so they can operate as their own. And hey, maybe one day they'll be able to butt off and create little chapters and other organic focus areas within those associations, but we want them to be successful. And so if anybody knows George Jensen, this one's for him, but the coordinator really acts as that spark plug for that group. It helps grow the demand, facilitate training, provides mentorship, gets people excited, helps plan burns. So oftentimes as landowners, we get to Christmas, maybe January, and it's like, oh man, I got to burn in the next month or 2 or 3 or 4. And that ahead of time planning, that looking forward is often something that we just don't think about. So the coordinator can really help with that. When you have multiple burns going on or multiple burns planned in certain areas, the coordinator can really help prioritize the needs based on the weather conditions, based on staffing and the complexity of the burns. When you have all that set up, lined up ahead of time, it makes it much easier with one person overlooking it. They make sure the burn goals are met. And what do I mean by burn goals? Do we run off acreage burn goals? Do we run off number of burns? And it all depends on the group. At the end of the day, we want landowners to be out there burning safely and learning about prescribed fire. And it might be a 2-acre burn, it might be a 50-acre burn. One of the other things that's important is economies of scale. So this is a site over in Alabama where multiple PBA landowners are all together. And if you see that yellow L-shaped block, it's kind of like Tetris up at the top. That yellow block was the first landowner that got excited about burning. He started talking to his neighbors, and he was able to put these 6 individuals together, and they conducted a PBA burn in that area across property boundaries. Everything was done safely, it was planned, but they didn't have to go in and plow lines between the different adjacent landowners. So I think it was 3 different burns to tackle all of that, but it allowed them to take advantage of good burn days, multiple landowners, a lot of capacity and manpower help out there. And so that's where economy of scales can come into play on this. So as far as the hands-on training, workshops, prescribed burn certification courses, different self-guided online programs that are available. One of the big ones are Learn to Burns. And I think I have a slide on that in a second. But the volunteering aspect of it. Oftentimes when you're starting out with prescribed burning, you need experience. And there's only one way to get experience, it's to be out there on the fire line and eating smoke and learning. And so that's where the hands-on training really comes in. And at the end of the day, depending on where we burn, we might have our greens and yellows on, but we want landowners not to see that as a barrier. We call it blue jean burning, wearing 100% cotton, blue jeans, cotton long sleeve shirt, leather boots, leather gloves, glasses, bright colored hat. But do it in a manner that does not look like a barrier to them. It's, man, see greens and yellows running around and all of a sudden it's, well, I can't afford all that, or that's just too much for me. So there's other ways we can do it safely. So with Learn to Burn workshops, it's hands-on prescribed fire training. Typically the way we run them is a mentor, a professional with 2 landowners at the most, talking our way through it every day, or the whole way through it throughout the day. And so they can ask why we're doing what we do. They can see that the art of prescribed fire, because you guys know we get out there burning and fire is an art, and it's with a lot of science behind it. All right, I'm gonna flip through here because I've got 5 minutes left. So some of the survey results on prescribed this Learn to Burns, and this really drove it home. The gray bar is before, the blue bar is after. And so one of the things that a lot of people were concerned about, especially the contractors that I worked with on these, was if we start teaching landowners to burn, I'm going to be out of work. And so that middle one is use a prescribed burn contractor or consultant to manage a burn on my land. And that number really didn't change. People learned about fire, but if they were going to use a contractor before, they're probably going to keep using it. The big change was up top that I will manage a burn on my own land. So people gain that confidence of saying, hey, I think I could do this. All right, third-party insurance. There's general liability policies. There's umbrella policies. Oftentimes, they don't protect landowners for prescribed fire specifically. Certain states have farm and ranch policies. You need to check your state. Most of them in the Southeast don't cover prescribed fire. So the 2 options you have if you want a third-party insurance are a per occurrence, which is $200 to $600+ per burn, depending on the size, lengthy process, or a risk pool. And so some of the things we started doing last year was the first year we did this in Alabama, was a third-party risk pool insurance. Phase 1, it was $1 million policy with a $2 million aggregate for prescribed fire. The PBA had a policy or standard operating procedures written up. They review everything. If it met all the criteria and was done by a certified burn manager in pursuance with the laws in Alabama, it would get covered under that policy. So we were able to expand it to Georgia this year with all three of the current burn associations, and that's Southwest Georgia, which is George, Savannah River, which is Ash, hey Ash, and Chattahoochee Fall Line, which is RT, and then Mark Shutters, who is a part-time coordinator for them. What do you think the demand for this was? And this is, if they did this is for all of the members of those PBAs, if they did an official, followed the laws, what was it, went to the meeting ahead of time and just planned the burnout. Okay. So submit burn plan, maps, and a site visit ahead of time. Came to a workshop with all the information, all their burn plan information. They did the burn plan at the workshop, and then somebody went out to check their fire breaks. That's all it took. How many people do you think jumped on it? Remember, liability is a big issue that landowners say when you talk about prescribed fire. Do you have any guesses? Not a lot. I think there was less than 15 across the state that jumped on that. So this is one of those that we hear this barrier, and I've heard it the whole time working with private landowners, that liability is my number one issue. And my question is it? Because there's 1,500 landowners between these three PBAs. Is that what's stopping us from burning? I don't have the answer. All right, so currently wrapping up, the tall timber supported PBAs right now, there's almost 600 members representing 300,000 acres in East Texas, Central Alabama, Northwest Florida, Georgia, and Eastern Shore of Delaware. We're standing up Southwest Alabama and talk on Mountain Longleaf in 1 second. In the Georgia PBAs, as of June 1st, 65 burns, 4,764 acres on private lands, helping those landowners out. And then Mountain Longleaf PBA. So we just scheduled this meeting last week. This will be the third meeting of this group. It will be in Rome, Georgia, at the Eco Center on July 30th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so we'll talk on prescribed fire, using prescribed fire to improve wildlife habitat, invasive species management, and hopefully making that PBA an official group. We have a grant request in right now, and we should know within the next couple of weeks if we can fund a coordinator for that position. And so at the end of the day, PBAs are like landowner cooperatives back in the day. I mean, they're social in nature. It's neighbors helping neighbors. It allows them to get together, spend time, fellowship together, learn something, and apply prescribed fire on the ground to help improve further management. The Great Plains Fire Science Exchange has a national map. If you're not from the Deep South, you can see what other PBAs are around out there. Also, Burn Smart. If you're doing any kind of landowner outreach or have new people on your burns that aren't state certified or don't run NWCG qualifications, this is a really good short safety video for private landowners. You can just Google it, Burn Smart, Tall Timbers, and it will pop up. With that, do we have any questions?